Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. It's Monday afternoon. I'm COVID-free. I've been COVID-free for 2 days, done a couple of tests, so I know I'm clear. So, yeah, it's a beautiful day. I've been outside for a bit this morning, reading, chilling. I'm off to the cinema now. I'm off, of course, to see Deadpool v Wolverine, or Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not a massive fan of Deadpool. I've seen both films, and yeah, very funny. I sort of got the joke. But, you know, you can't criticise a film that takes nearly $500 million worldwide in its first weekend, so it would be silly of me and rude of me not to pop down and see what the guys are up to. So, let's go Deadpool! And we're back in the room. Right, I'm back from seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. As I mentioned in my pre-credits sequence, never been a massive fan of Deadpool. I mean, obviously I've seen the first two films. I haven't revisited them. I don't think I've ever revisited them. And I think I probably will, actually, because I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. I think the problem I always had with the character of Deadpool, there are two problems, really. Much as I'm a Marvel fan, Deadpool came along long after I'd moved on from Marvel. So my Marvel affiliations have always been towards the classic characters. Your Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, the Avengers, the X-Men. Those are the characters that were around and popular when I was into Marvel in the early, mid-70s. Deadpool came along a lot later, and I think he encapsulated a different type of comic. The sort of comics I'm not really interested in these days, the graphic novel sort of thing. I think that, without going off on a tangent too much, is that comics aspiring to be for adults, it never sits well with me, because I think intrinsically they're an art form for younger people. And, you know, I read older comics now. I collected some 1960s and 70s comics, but the modern stuff doesn't do it for me. For me, it's the nostalgia of the old comics, really. So I was never really knew very much about Deadpool when he arrived. I had no history of Deadpool. I had no knowledge of his whatever he'd done in the comics. I've tried to read a couple of comics since. I think I tried to read Deadpool Kills Marvel or something, where he kills off lots of characters, and I just thought, wow, I don't see the point of this. So I've never really got Deadpool. That's what I'm saying, in a roundabout way. And I thought the first two films were fitfully entertaining, but I just felt, yeah, I get the joke. You're breaking the fourth wall, you're swearing, and it's extreme violence. And I sort of got it. And I thought, well, I don't know that I need any more of this. Especially then the second one came along, was more of the same. Increasingly meta, with little gags and side references. And I went into this thinking, I don't know. Of course, I'd planned to see it originally last Thursday, but COVID struck me down, so I didn't get to see it early. And whilst I haven't read many of the reviews, I've got a general feeling that it's gone down very well, obviously. It's taken gazillions at the box office already. Well, nearly $500 million in the space of about 4 days, which is pretty impressive. So clearly, it had found its target audience. And I think Deadpool has its target audience anyway, and whether it's for sort of adolescents who like swearing and things, I don't know. But anyway, I went into this today feeling better because I've been ill and looking forward to a good time. And I had a really good time with it. I must admit, I really enjoyed this film. It's bonkers, it's nuts. It doesn't just break the fourth wall, it just breaks them all. There might as well, there's no walls there, basically. The plot is sort of quite convoluted, and yet it's also quite thin. Basically, the idea is that Deadpool gets abducted by agents from the Time Variance Authority, that some of you may know from the Loki TV series, and he's dispatched by a character called Mr. Paradox, played by Matthew McFadden, to find Wolverine, who has died, and he is a prime figure in the multiverse, and his death has upset the whole timeline. I'm really not going to go any further about the plot, because it really is a silly thing. What is interesting, I think, about the film is that you do need a bit of prior knowledge of previous Marvel Cinematic Universe, particularly television universe shows, as I mentioned, Loki. The whole thing really hinges on the time variance authority and this area called the Void, where people are sent when they're pruned by the agent. So I think the people who haven't seen Loki might have been a little bit, what's all this? What's all this business? There is a bit of exposition, which is sort of handily pointed out by Deadpool. This is exposition. But I think for newbies, it might be a bit much, a bit overload, because there's so much lore picked up from Loki and wrapped around Deadpool and Wolverine and how Wolverine is resurrected. The sort of title sequence, pre-title sequence is very amusing, because I think that most people will agree that the Logan film, which came out a few years ago, which was apparently Hugh Jackman's swan song as the character, was a very dramatic, serious look at being a superhero, being an aging superhero, having responsibilities beyond just being a superhero, often regarded as not even a superhero film at all. Deadpool walks all over that film, walks all over the ending of that film, and is incredibly sacrilegious, I suppose some might say, in what happens. And don't worry, I'm not going to give any spoilers about this film during this review. There are lots of things that could be spoiled, probably have been spoiled if you know where to look, but I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to tell you who appears and what happens. But the story, basically, and I will go back to it slightly, is that Deadpool finds himself travelling through the multiverse to find a Wolverine who can help him save the sacred timeline, which is, I think it's our timeline, and to save the multiverse and to save his own timeline from being destroyed. This involves travelling into the Void, where they meet up with Cassandra, played by Emma Corrin. She is the sister of Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart in the X-Men film. She's in the Void, and she disposes of people who are pruned and sent into the Void. And she comes into conflict with Wolverine and Deadpool. They have to try and get together a little team to fight her, to find their way back to the sacred timeline and the Time Variance Authority, to stop her accessing a thing called a Time Ripper device, which will destroy the multiverse. So yeah, basically the plot is a lot of nonsense. It's basically this thing to hang around a lot of very crude jokes, a lot of very extreme violence, and a lot of quite clever jokes as well. The things I liked about this, and I most appreciated about this, is the fact that Deadpool has now been embraced by Marvel. The films were originally made by 20th Century Fox. Now it's in Marvel, and to be fair, Marvel and Kevin Feige didn't put the brakes on. They didn't try to sanitize Deadpool. He's just as coarse and vulgar, possibly more so than he was in the two previous films. The gloves are off here. There's effing, there's jeffing, there's extreme imagery of nasty violence. There's it's very upfront, it's very in your face. I mean, it's PG in America, it's 15 in the UK, and that's quite a strong 15, because it's quite a strong film in terms of the dialogue, the attitudes, the violence. It's in your face, it's right up there, Mrs., as Deadpool himself might say. But I admire Marvel for doing it. I admire Marvel for allowing the film to be made, because the film takes so many jabs at Marvel all the way through. You've probably seen in the trailer where Deadpool describes himself as Marvel Jesus, because he is quite conscious that he's in a film. Although there's a story going on, as I say, there's lots of fourth wall breaking, addressing the camera, talking about the mechanics of making the film as you're watching the story. There's one scene which I did particularly like, which I thought was really funny, where there's like an action scene and Deadpool and Wolverine are sort of smashed through this shop front and people are running all over the place, and they climb out of the window onto the street ready to pitch back into battle, and Deadpool goes, no, wait a second, let the extras get out of the way. And it's that sort of thing which I found very funny, and there's a lot of that in the film. There's a lot of self-referencing, meta stuff about the fact that this is all fiction. But within the fiction, it's the story. The two actually rub along quite well, because those things can be a little bit wearing and they can completely displace you. But because the story is so absurd and the stakes are so ridiculous and the action's so over the top, you go with it, really. You sort of go with it. And what's also quite good is that there are some quite tender moments as well about Wolverine, his failure, the things that have gone wrong in the past, because this Wolverine that Deadpool shacks up with, he's supposed to be the worst Wolverine of all the Wolverines in the multiverse. And there are some nice visual gags about other Wolverines, which are bringing a smile to my lips just thinking about them. But there's nice little, for all its crassness and vulgarness and extreme gratuitous violence, there's a heart in there as well. There is heart threaded through it. Deadpool himself, he's split up with his girlfriend Vanessa, played by Marina Baccarin, who appears briefly. And he regrets that, and he's given up being Deadpool, and he wants a normal life, and he's working in a car showroom, and he regrets the things he hasn't had. He regrets the things he's lost, just as Wolverine does. He regrets the losses that he incurred throughout the previous X-Men films. So there is heart there. There is heart as well as brashness, as well as gouting blood, and it's all there. Beheadings, disembowelings, impalings. Every form of human degradation physically takes place in this film, but it's all done with wit and charm and gusto. Ryan Reynolds obviously loves playing this character. He, to the extent that he now plays this character in every film he does, there's always an edge of Deadpool in there. But there's so much enthusiasm for it, and there's so much energy in it, and there's at least 3-4 big action set pieces that are just dazzling in their choreography and the music choices. There's some great music underpinning things, which ranges from NSYNC, Justin Timberlake's boy band, to Madonna, and more points in between. It's a very eclectic mix of music, but it just works in the context of the film. Loads of little jokes, and as I said, I'm not going to spoil any of the jokes. Go in and laugh at them. I laughed at some of the jokes that people perhaps didn't find quite as amusing. There's a couple of little running gags that are sort of referred to every now and again. And there's multiple versions of Deadpool. There's Nice Deadpool, who's also played by Ryan Reynolds, who is the complete opposite of our Deadpool. And that's a running thing, which is very funny. And the performances are all great. Emma Corrin is really good as the villain, Cassandra. Matthew McFadden is very good as the duplicitous TVA officer, Paradox. You've got a guest appearance from Wunmi Mosaku, who appears in the Loki TV series. And there are cameos, but again, saying nothing. But some of them are really, ooh, and wow, and oh. And there's a very funny gag in relation to one of those cameos about Marvel films, but I'm not going to spoil that now. I just go and see it. So yeah, I'm confounded. I confounded myself by really enjoying this much more than I thought I would. I sort of went in expecting to have a little sneer on my face, going, come on then, I know what you're going to do. But it just swept me away. It just swept me away completely, and I wasn't thinking in those terms. I wasn't thinking in terms of being cynical and expecting to find the style of it tiresome as I did in the first two films, but this just had an energy about it. And of course, it's great to see Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. There's an end credit sequence which is inessential but quite amusing, and during the credits there's quite a nice little bit. I won't spoil that again, but it's not exactly a mid-credit sequence, but it's a mid-credits homage, if you like, and it's really rather nice. So all in all, quite a surprise. I'm really glad I went to see it, because I wasn't expecting to like it. I was expecting to appreciate it, perhaps, and think, yeah, okay, I can see what they're getting, but this isn't for me. But yeah, this was for me. I had a great time with it, and it does make you feel enthusiastic about Marvel again, along with all the stuff that we had at Comic-Con on the weekend. I was thinking of doing a video about that, but you're probably sick to death of hearing people screaming about Robert Downey Jr. coming back to Marvel as Doctor Doom. But this is the first, I won't say it's the first step, but it's a sign that there's a lot of life left in Marvel with the right characters and the right stories. I think if they can just dump their obsession with secondary characters like She-Hulk and Moon Knight and Ms. Marvel and just stick to the big stuff that we want to see, I think Marvel will ride out this wave. Anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine gets a big thumbs up from me, and also gets a big 9 out of 10 from me. 9 out of 10 for Deadpool and Wolverine in your cinemas now. If you've seen it, why not leave a comment down below? Let me know what you thought of it. And if you're new here, if you've just tuned in because you wanted to see what I thought of the film, why not do the decent thing? Press that subscribe button. Like, thumbs up, share, tell your friends. Love to get to 800 subscribers as quickly as possible. Come on, quickly. So do what you have to do to get me there. And we'll all be very happy and we won't fall out. Right, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. As I said, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of D&W. If you've seen it yet, if you're planning to see it. And I'll see you soon. Till I do, though, keep taking the stuff.